Kenneth Kinney, and welcome to another episode of An Education That Works, where every week Victory University profiles leaders in our community who've gone on to achieve phenomenal success in their careers after earning a college degree. Well, on today's show, we highlight the first series of speakers who, like Victory University, are working hard to advance educational opportunities, as well as offering some excellent career advice. So join me now for some of the best of on Victory University's An Education That Works.
There are just wonderful opportunities that come with going to college, to receiving a higher education that you just don't get sitting at home watching TV.
Right.
And those things prepare you for future jobs and future opportunities. It teaches you how to utilize technology more effectively in the everyday workaday world. It puts you in contact with potential CEOs of organizations that you may be able to tap and network with later. It introduces you to professors that come from places as far away as Asia and as near as, Memphis, Tennessee. Mm-hmm. And so the cultural diversity, the knowledge, learning new things, dealing with new environments, and having to adapt and have the discipline to do your work even when you party a little bit too. So I think it teaches a lot of things that literally prepare you for life. And that's the most significant part of going to college.
Well, I think a lot of the guys guys and girls that work at the general manager level, especially in minor league baseball, they're tremendous networkers, and that's a real key that you can develop throughout your entire education. But it really comes into play when you become a professional, for lack of a better term. Being able to build those relationships, whether they be in the nonprofit community, in the business community, in the baseball community. You need to be able to network, because you're not going to know everything, and you're going to need help from other people, and you're going to need to have that network so you can go get that help.
So I think that universities, colleges, technical schools really need to focus on the fact that it's workforce development, that for the most part, individuals go to school to prepare themselves for the rest of their lives, for their careers, for their work. And I think that changes things a bit.
I've always believed, and to some extent in my own life, that success really isn't about being really good at any one thing. Although that's certainly, if you're Steve Jobs and you're good at that, mm-hmm. you do okay. Mm-hmm. But for most of us, I think the real challenge is to be good and solid at a lot of different things, and that certainly makes you more employable. If you really develop a well-rounded persona and have the right attitude towards what your task is, doors will open for you.
Sure.
What I tell people who are in college that are asking me what field should I study, it doesn't matter. It really does not matter. If you're interested in criminal justice, if you're interested in English, if you're interested in political science, if you're interested in history, it doesn't matter. Whatever it is your interest is, do the best you can, because those grades are what matters. And if you're a great writer, that's a great background for a lawyer. If you're great with political science, that certainly is a great background. History is a great background. Speaking, communications is a great background. But whatever your interest is, follow it, and somehow it'll fit in with the law. It doesn't. It really doesn't matter.
I always tell people too, it really does help to know people. You know, there's a lot of FedEx people in Memphis, and almost everyone knows
Right.
one. And I always say,
Sure.
get some advice,
Right.
get some linkage to someone who can possibly give you some little edge, some little connectivity back to a hiring manager or hiring director or VP. Why? Because there are so many people trying to get jobs right now. And so how do you differentiate yourself? How do you stand out when you've basically got a computer matching up job requirements? So that's a little bit of a tough one because, you know, not everybody knows someone. But I guess what my encouragement is don't be afraid to network. Don't be afraid to
Exactly.
reach out to who you know. It may be that you don't know, but you have a friend or your spouse knows someone who knows someone.
Right.
Use
Right.
the link.
One of the things that I think that's really important early on, particularly as an undergraduate, you know, one of the things you're trying to do is stand out so that people would pick you, and which is more likely to stand out? The 5,000th biology major
Right.
or somebody who actually has a broad undergraduate education? And I think being a really good doctor is about having a broad base of knowledge.
Sure.
So, I mean, in my own life, I mean, I was a history major. You know, now, do I have the ability to do the sciences? You have to do that in order to get chosen
Sure.
to go to medical school. But I think it's far more important as an undergraduate to be able to take history courses, English courses, certainly be able to learn how to write well. You know, that's the best advice I give young people about being a good doctor. That not about learning the sciences. Trust me, medical school is going to make you learn the sciences.
Sure.
But can you learn how to write the English language? That would be a good thing.
Well, I think that we have a much more rigorous teacher evaluation process, and I think that college students need to have that same mirrored experience at the college level that we're having now. So that way when they get out into their regular classroom, it's not a big shock that they're having to go through the teacher evaluation process. Our standards are changing. We have turned to the Common Core standards, and that needs to be demonstrated in the college level, so that's something that they're prepared to do, to plan lessons related to Common Core. Our assessments, our state assessments are changing for our students. I think college prep programs need to stay on top of the changes in education across the state and across the nation, because once a student graduates and they choose a school, whether it's here in Memphis or anywhere else, they need to be prepared for what our requirements are. And so that way it's not a whole new prep program all over again, a trial by fire, so to speak, as soon as you start teaching. We want teachers to be retained, right? We want teachers to stay beyond 5 years. We know that teachers quit between the years of 0 to 5. And in order to retain teachers, they need to come out ready. And in order to do that, it means being able to meet the challenges at that first year rather than that year 5. So a good mentoring program when you're beginning your career, that's going to be really important. But if you already knew what to anticipate while you're in the college level, you'd be more prepared when you started.
It does, and people ask us that all the time as prosecutors. You know, I've worked here for 22 years. I've handled every kind of case this office has seen, and people ask us all the time, what's the #1 cause of crime? What causes the crime? And it all gets back to education. It all gets back to, as parents, being educated about the dangers, the pitfalls, what they need to be looking out for, educating yourself on where your kids are, who they're with, what are they up to, and our young people educating themselves about the pitfalls and the dangers and the temptations and the reality that you know, you get in trouble as a juvenile and it can follow you the rest of your life. It can keep many, many doors from ever opening. So education is such a huge part of what we do in terms of prevention. You know, parents can't take steps to prevent their children from being exposed to synthetic marijuana until that parent knows what synthetic marijuana is,
Right.
what it looks like, why do I need to be worried about it? And the kids can't know, why do I need to stay away from it until somebody, until we educate ourselves.
Along with other things that you do along the way, but I love doing radio. I love communications. That's what my degree was in, English. So I've had great opportunities to work in school systems. The degree itself simply prepares you to understand other areas of business, of politics, of what have you, whatever those things may be. But once you understand what it means to learn, then you become like a sponge. You want to learn not just whatever your specific degree choice is, but again, how does that relate to everything else? So I've had a great time, never been unemployed.
I think so many times that we get, as an individual, you can get yourself caught up into a world of beating yourself up and thinking there's no way out. But when you hear stories about other people that are, making, lemonade out of lemons, as they say, and having success, and you hear their excitement, their passion, it's motivation. And I think that that's what we all need that. And so we all need encouragement. And I believe through the radio business at AM 990, one of the things that we try to do is to share those stories. We have people on all the time that we get, invite them up to the radio station that are having successes. The business owners, entrepreneurs, and people like that. And more today, a lot of people are finding that independent employment there's a great opportunity there. But you've got to have that motivation. You've got to have that drive. You've got to get up off the couch and you got to go and do something.
So, then let's say that they do have their degree, and what is that next step? And you just cannot replace an old-fashioned term called relationships.
Right.
And so it's important, so very important to develop those relationships. I know from my life, and I don't think it's that different today than before, maybe the types of relationships are different, but I still run into and see people that I went to college with, and that was in the early 70s, and very often those are the people that I turn to or that turn to me, and we stay connected in ways that have benefited my career. I think I've helped some people with their careers.
Sure.
And those relationships, there's no substitute for that. Someone picking up the phone and saying, hey, I just heard about this job that's available, or someone that's perhaps a little bit closer that provides some advice, ongoing advice and counsel. I have friends that to this day, it's like I have a question about a career decision. Maybe it's for me, maybe it's for somebody else, and you make that call. It's like, hey, I was thinking about this, and so those are people that help keep you grounded, help keep you connected to the many other outlets there are.
So it definitely is a challenge, and I would say that the new workforce now that's available have very high expectations.
Sure.
And so with myself, when I think back, I won't say how many years, but many years getting into the workforce, I had no expectation coming in the door that I was to be given anything or that a promotion was around the corner. That's why I was beating the door down. And where I think it's flipped, where I think that and I say this out of all respect because I have 2 children and they're both millennials and they're both early in their careers, and I've had quite a bit of coaching and counseling with them as well as with our team members that are in the same age bracket. And it's not a matter of paying your dues so much as it is earning that promotion, and that it's not something that you're entitled to just because you happen to be here. And really the best way to get noticed or to be promoted is to do a good job. And so quit worrying about what the next promotion is, or do I have senior on my title or VP, in front of my name or after my name. What have I done? What have I contributed to the organization? And if you worry about that, and you'll get there. You'll contribute. You'll feel good about making a difference, and then the accolades will come, and the recognition will come, and the promotions will come. Just keep at it. And but if you get out there and expect too much too soon, and kind of present having that entitlement mentality, despite all the talent that you might have, it will be overshadowed by an expectation that's not realistic.
I realize that sometimes you start, what society says, you start behind, so you got to discipline yourself, you got to prepare yourself, and you got to do the best that you can. And at the end, if you've done the best you can, you're okay, so you go home and live with it. But I think we should always try to grow and do better. So as in the legal system, that's what we're trying to make it better for somebody. It's an adversarial system, so sometimes everybody's not going to go home happy, but at least you had your day in court. And at least somebody was there to try to help you. And hopefully things will change, the laws will change. There's one thing about practicing law too, is we can have changes, because laws change every day. Like you said, I have to look up something every day to make sure that law had changed. So in life, it encourages people that we can change as well. Just learn what you can do it a little bit better next time. Like I said, why you think it's called the practice of law? Because every day we get out and we practice, and we practice the skills we have, and then we try to learn something new as well. And we continue to try to make the system better.
I just really think, and I know it sounds maybe to some of our viewers that it's a little bit naive, but I think that you really have to find in your heart what it is that makes you tick, and then go find a way to get into that. People come to me because, oh gosh, you were in professional baseball for 7 years, or you ran a not-for-profit like MIFA, and isn't that great? And I say, yeah, absolutely, it's great. But there aren't a lot of executive director of not-for-profit jobs open in this community.
Right.
You need to get at some entry level, and you need to make yourself known by autographing your work with excellence every day. I don't mean that to be a trite phrase, but I think you kind of got to get in at the ground level. If a young person wants to be the general manager of the Memphis Redbirds, they need to go be an intern for the Memphis Redbirds, and they need to be seen by the foundation board, and if this Cardinal deal works, make a name for themselves. But I just think it's hard work. It's starting from the top. It's being willing. No job too small, and just senior management will see those people who love their job and work hard.
I do get, and enjoy doing it, folks calling me to get advice, trying to network into companies. I've got to be very careful that I can't be talking to too many folks, sending them to too many companies and abuse relationships that I have. But, it's important to, and this is where it sort of overlaps a little bit with what we do at the Better Business Bureau, it's important to get with the right company.
Right.
Check out the company, be sure that their values match yours. We're not seeing it, knock on wood, quite as much as we did probably 4 or 5 years ago, but you recall some of the biggest successful, if you measured success by revenues, by earnings and whatever, some of the biggest, supposedly most successful companies, in fact, were very unethical. Enron, WorldCom, there's others that are escaping me at this point. Knock on wood, I'm not sure that we have very many of those here in Memphis.
Sure.
But, to speak a little bit to the Better Business Bureau,
We are in the business of trying to steer consumers to good businesses, away from bad businesses, and the ever-increasing number of scams. But the vast majority of businesses are good, ethical companies. Unfortunately, there's just enough bad ones and more than enough scams to keep us busy.
Sure. Well, first of all, I feel called to do it. It's just part of my personal life and my calling. But I really wish I would have had somebody as a mentor when I was going through college, not to give me the answers, because
Sure.
as I tell the proteges that we work with, we make mistakes. I make mistakes every day. And I would have loved to have seen somebody in action that would admit that and say, I don't have all the answers, but when I make a mistake, I try to learn from it, and when I fail, I try to fail forward. Other things, such when you're just coming into the business world, just to understand how to take a business lunch, how to behave in a meeting, how to dress, how to communicate with different levels of people. So, I feel it's very important for young people to understand that. I wish I would have had it, and the young people that I work with today are so much brighter than I was when I went through. They really inspire me. I get a lot more out of mentoring, believe it or not, I think, than the protege gets.
Sure.
Because, here I am in a technology environment. I'm in my 50s, and most of the people, as you see, that we work with here are very young.
Sure.
And there's a real cultural and age difference, and so it keeps me young, and it keeps me plugged in to what they think about, to what they think is important, and primarily what motivates them. Because what motivates them is different than what motivates me. And if I can better understand that in a business setting, I can be a better leader and a better manager in our business as well.
Only 1% of the population is born with a predisposition toward any passion for anything. Usually those are artists, musicians, and athletes. The rest of us, which includes 99% of them, we really have to find that passion. How do you find the passion? If you don't start with one, how do you find it? Well, it starts right here where you start your college education. Find something that you think you could be really, really good at. You don't have to love it. It's not a prerequisite to picking a career, because you're not going to be passionate about it, regardless of what the late Steve Jobs, who is probably one of the 3 or 4 most iconic business guys in the last century, said to the Stanford graduates when he told them, if you don't love what you're doing, don't do it. And these kids just paid $400,000 to get an accounting degree.
Right.
They weren't going to be passionate about that. Find something you think you could love to do, and or like to do, or be good at doing. Sales, accounting, engineering, it doesn't. Whatever it is, even if it's doing something in the labor field, the trade field, brick masons, painting, all of those things. Find something you think you'd be good at. Now, here's the first step. It takes 10,000 hours for you to be good at something. I mean, really, really, really good at it. That's 15 years. If you get really good, and I don't mean, and to these guys that are listening to this and talk about a 4-year education thing, if I just get through this, you never stop learning. You never stop. You go back to school, over it, get as much as you get as good as you can get. Become an expert at what you do. When you become an expert, the second thing you get is you get autonomy. You find the best people at doing something, they'll have the most autonomy. They get to do what they want to do. That's something every human being would like. When you get autonomy, you get to pick the people you do it with, which is the second or third thing people want. Get good at it, you get autonomy, you get to pick the people you do it with. Once you get to this point, you're going to be probably compensated equal to or better than what you feel. People know if they're being treated fairly. They know if they're being paid well, being paid fairly. It's not I'm getting rich or I'm making millions. Am I being paid? And most people just want to know they're being compensated at the best they can be. Guess what happens after about 25 years of that? You will be passionate about what you do. Passion is an outcome.
I remember one in particular. I was working at the Four Ambassadors in Miami. It was an Intercontinental Hotel. And sorry about that, the ducks say what they have to say.
They're not mic'd up, but
yes. But I was working at the Intercontinental, I at the time was an assistant front office manager, front desk manager, which was really kind of a lobby manager. And there was a position that I thought was kind of my next step, and that was reservations manager. And I knew the gentleman, I had gotten to know him, and I knew that he had planned on retiring in the next year. So I purposely went in, I would offer to help in there whenever we were dead on the front desk. I'd go back and I would say, hey, how can I help? You know, train me on this, how do you do this? And he basically taught me everything about the reservation system, and of course back then it was all manual.
Sure.
And when time came that he retired, not only did he recommend me, because I was probably, but at the time, from everybody that was on the staff, I was probably the most qualified to do it because I had really learned everything in the office. So I'm constantly recommending to people that if you want a position, make yourself marketable for that position. Always learn what's your next step and how do you become the best candidate for that position.
What I really love doing is sharing what I've learned. What I really love doing is imparting what it is that, you know, the life lessons and the God lessons that I'm learning. That is something that each one of these kids can do. And I think, you know, that I do a fair amount of talking about that. It's funny that you should bring it up. You know, like managing our expectations. It's not pouring cold water on them, you know, but it is a matter of saying, like, we don't know. We have to just shoot for the stars and really continue to be prepared and even more prepared for what comes. But to try to instill in them a better understanding of how important they are horizontally. In other words, to all these people here, these other kids, these are the people whose lives they can impact profoundly because of what they're doing, because of the hard work that they're putting into this thing called music. That it can be, you know, spiritually, socially, so many different ways. Obviously, education, you know, that they could become instructors to share with other people what it is that, you know, what life's all about. You can't talk enough about that, and I will end by saying that it's extremely important to address that, to say to kids, you know what, if you're not the next Miley Cyrus, it's okay, you know, because what you're going to be is a really, really cool version of you, and what God intended for you to be. It's going to take a lot of work to get to that, so don't worry about being Miley. You know, you worry about this, and I guarantee you, you're going to be happy and fulfilled doing what you're supposed to be doing.
So if you or anyone else you know was inspired by any of today's stories, or if you're a high school student who's looking to have a great college experience, or if you just want to complete your degree online, then I urge you today to go to aneducationnetworks.com. On behalf of Victory University, thank you for An Education That Works.